Hello friends, welcome back to our Lovable and n8n masterclass course. By the end of this course, I will show you how to build a fully fledged real working product from just a single prompt. So by the end of this course, you'll have a fully working product which has a beautiful backend and workflow and a real public URL, since we'll be able to deploy this application. So you'll have a public URL which you can add to your portfolio and also you can share with your friends. So these are the modules that we are going to do in this course. So in module 1, we learn about prompt engineering of landing page. So we'll learn how to design wonderful and professional prompts from just the vague information that people give AI agents. So we learn how to curate specific and professional prompts and how even to integrate beautiful design so that your prompt can do exactly what you desire or what you envision. And afterwards, we'll put this into practice, whereby now we'll build a real world landing page and use different design patterns and different designs outside there to integrate it into our landing page to produce exactly what we want. In module 2, we'll start by understanding the architecture of a great workflow and how to design a great workflow before developing it. And then afterwards we'll proceed and see how to get data from this landing page and how to post that data into different data stores such as Google Sheet or even database that you want. So we'll interact with things like webhook and things also like API doc to understand how to test different workflow functionalities. And then we'll proceed to learn different conditional logic such as filtering and using conditional switches in order to filter out wrong data and also to create condition whereby the data that has been sent to your workflow can be processed and perform different action based on the condition that you'll have set. And afterwards, after building a fully working workflow which can go as far as filtering data and sending different specific messages, personalized messages to different users based on the input that has been sent, we'll proceed now to connect our landing page to our backend workflow which you will have built with the n8n. And lastly, we'll take this website and I'll show you how to deploy this website to Vercel, which is a good platform for hosting AI product. So by the end of this course, you'll have a fully working product with a public URL which you can add to your portfolio and you can even share with your friends just to show them what you have built. And you'll also be free to customize all these things to suit you or to play around to build something beautiful. But beside that, I have a module 3 which is not part of this course and which is available to only the paid users in my website, that is kevinamai.com. So if you want to really go deeper and you really want to become an expert, you can buy that course and then proceed and see how I've been able to integrate different AI agents, different AI models such as Anthropic to build beautiful AI agents which act as chatbot in our landing page so that customers can come and ask different questions and then the AI will use different data and different context to reply to these questions, so we can have a chat agent that work day and night to make sure that we are able to address all customers' queries. So all this will be in module 3. And so if you're interested in learning more, in becoming an expert, you can click in the link in the description or you can just go directly to my website kevinamai.com and then you can enroll to the course and start learning. And so without further ado, let us dive in and start learning. So guys, in this video we're gonna start with the anatomy of a great AI prompt. Many a times when people just write prompt for building application, I presume they have just a general idea and they type anything on the prompt just to tell the AI to give them the application, which is not a good practice, because usually if you don't give the AI specific instruction and if you don't have a clear structure on how to write the prompt, the outcome won't be as good as the prompt is. So if you want a great outcome, then you need to know how to instruct AI, and you don't need 3-hour course to learn this, as I see on online. You can start with the basics, which are a great place to start. So here I have an example of a great AI prompt one that we are going to use throughout this course to be able to understand how to create the prompt. So this is just a simple example, but you can design the prompt based on what you want. So the prompt says you are a CRO, that is conversion rate optimization expert. So you are a CRO, that is conversion rate optimization expert. Build a dark theme landing page for an AI agency that builds premium landing page and MVPs using built-in AI class tools, targeting busy founders, businesses, and non-tech visionaries. And then I've added peak, and then there is a peak boilerplate, and then there is a link to the boilerplate. Use this as the main boilerplate for the design. So why is this great prompt? So let us try to break this down to see why this is a great prompt. So number one, it defines the role. All right, it defines, or it puts the AI in a state whereby the AI understand the role of the person who has been given this task. All right, or of the expert. And then we also have the task, which is very concise, very clear. This is a landing page. All right, we have not complicated anything. It's quite clear, quite simple. So you start with the role, then the task, and then the subject, what the output is actually about. In our case, the output is for an AI agency that builds premium pages and MVPs. All right, and then after that, we define the method or the constraint on how this should be done, or how the AI agency does it work using built-in class AI tools. So that is how the company operates. So we are trying as much as possible giving the AI very specific, clear information so that it can have clear context on how to go about building this landing page. And then we also specify the audience. In our case, the audience are the founders and also non-tech visionaries who majorly do not have time to do the coding. And then the format I've specified here, this will be more of a dark theme, and then also I've added a boilerplate. I'm going to show you practically in the next lesson how you can be able to get this boilerplate and add them on this AI prompt. So the order is the role first, and then we have the task, and then we have the subject, then we have the method, and then we have the audience, then we have the format, and then we have the boilerplate. So I've defined here a concrete example or a concrete reusable template that you can just pick, and then you can reuse it over and over to create great prompts that will produce great results for you. So the boilerplate for this project is from GitHub. I've also added a number of links here that you can go and find great boilerplate that you can just copy the link of the boilerplate that you want and then use it. And so, for example, let's say if you pick this link here, this is GitHub topics. If I copy this link here, github.com/topics/landing page. So let me just escape this. If I go to my Chrome here and I go to github.com/topics/landing page. So this will take me to this site here. And so if you look at this site here, there are a lot of designs here that you can take. For example, if I just pick this one here is what? Let's pick this one here, and design landing. So once I click at this, it will land me here. And the link that I'm using on the prompt is this link here. But if you want to view this design, if you scroll down, believe you just click here, and then GitHub will open for you the exact design on how these things look like. Yeah, and then you can be able to, you can even use this link here to get the prompt to design what you want. Yeah, so that is how you get the link, but I'm going to show you once we start building the prompt practically how this is done. Hello guys, so in the first lesson we were able to see the architecture of good AI prompt, and in this lesson we are going to actually now see how to use that prompt to get something out of it. So let's get on and build something. So I'm going to use Lovable as the main AI agent in this case. So go to lovable.dev/dashboard or lovable.dev, sign up. You can use Gmail to sign up, it's free for start, and that is what we are going to do. So the next thing I'm going to do is that once you land in on Lovable, you'll have something like this. For now, what you only need to know is I'm going to copy my prompt. I'm going to paste here my prompt, and then I'm going to copy this lower part. I think I left this out. Then I'm going to paste here. So what I've done here is that I'm using this github.creep/open react template as the boilerplate to build this landing page. So where I've gotten this from, currently I'm using what we call the 21st.dev. So this is also a great tool for design and templates. If you don't have any idea on where to start, there are a lot of free templates here that you can use. So if you just sign here for the first time for free, you can go here. The template I'm using is this one. So this is Creep. So if I search for Creep, this is the template that I'm using. So, and then you can preview here. So this is how it looks. So if I go here and then I say, I think if I click get for free, it will take me now to the GitHub link here. And then from here, the link that I've copied is just the GitHub link here, and then I'll come to my prompt and paste it here. So once I've done that, it's very simple. I'll just click the prompt and then wait for Lovable to do its thing. So it's going to take a couple of minutes. So I'll pause and then I'll continue once it is done. So Lovable has completed building, and this is the final outlook. So what we can do is that we can click here to preview. Let me just do this, and then you can view this. It is quite it's pretty good, yeah. And just one prompt, we have such a polished landing page. To me, this is really nice, and with just single prompt, yeah, you can see even when you click pricing, go to FAQs. This is nice, yeah. So you can pause this video before you go to the next lesson, and then just try also to build something and go explore the different website with the different templates, and then try to build something of your own before you proceed and have put some interactivity in this website and do some more complex stuff. So far, we have been able to see the anatomy of a good prompt, and we have been able to apply that in creating a landing page, which we saw in the earlier lesson. And specifically in this lesson going forward, I want us to add some cool interactivity, to add some cool workflow that we can use to do some, let me say, some real world scenario that any company that is doing maybe marketing can apply and use it in their marketing steps. So basically what we are going to understand by the end of this lesson is that we are going to see the different part of this workflow, the anatomy of this workflow. We are going to understand how the front end, which is the website, the forms, they are going to be linked together. We are going to get data from that form, and then do some cool conditional logic on that data, so that you can be able to send emails, different emails based on the data that has been submitted on the form, and also see how all this can be brought together, merged together, and then notify the agency. All right. So basically the automation flow usually has a straightforward pattern. That is basically when something happens, maybe a form has been submitted, a webhook will fire, and then it schedule something, all right? And then once something has happened, then there is some form of data processing. All right, that is what we call data is shaped and judged. So there's some form of data processing where we take the data, maybe we change the form of the data, we do some cool stuff with it, and then maybe we ultimately decide to execute something. So that is a basic on automation process. And in our case here, what we'll want to do is that we will want to have a form whereby we can submit the name, the email, then there is the project budget and the project requirement. All right, so we are going to use this form to get all this data, and then we are going to filter and do some conditional logic to make sure that we send the right or the correct email to the different customers or the client. So we are going to have what we call a webhook, which is basically the trigger. So a webhook is what we are going to use to get data, or to rather to receive data from the form. All right, so the form will submit the data, and then we'll have a webhook which will now receive the data, and that will be basically the trigger of our workflow. So we will put a webhook which will be listening to data, and when data reaches that webhook, then it triggers the workflow. So we'll start by storing the data or appending the data to a simple database, which is maybe a Google Sheet. All right, and then after we have done that, we'll use a filter whereby, for example, we'll filter maybe some budget with very low price or budget to prevent them from going forward or receiving anything. So basically, we want, when the customer submit the form data gets to the webhook, the data is stored in the Google Sheet or any database that we want, and then we do a filter. All right, we check whether the data or the budget that was submitted meets the requirement of the company. And so if it falls within a certain budget that we want now to use what we call a switch. So a switch is basically, if you have ever handled programming, a switch is basically like an if statement. If something happens, then do something. If something happens, then do something. In other words, if a certain condition is met, then do something, otherwise do something. All right, so we'll have a filter that will remove those data that we do not have, and then we'll have an if statement or a switch, in our case in the workflow, that will do different action based on the condition that has been passed. So basically, in the if statement, we'll have branch A, whereby we'll have a budget of any submission with a budget of $1,000 to $3,000. We'll send a thank you statement. All right, we'll send a thank you statement, and maybe we'll get back to him, something like that. And then another submission where there's a budget of $3,000 to $5,000. We'll maybe request the user to schedule a quick call with us so that we can take it to the next step. All right, maybe we learn to personalize the email. You get the idea. So after that, then we'll have what we call a convergence or a merge. So a merge will basically, after we have done all these things, we want all these processes to end in a certain step. We don't want to leave them hanging, so that maybe after we have sent all this email and we have done all this, we can maybe end by a notification. So before we put on the last notification, you need to converge all these things to a specific step, and then specify the action that you want to be done in after the workflow has converged. So in our case, we'll just send a notification to ourselves to let us to be notified so that we can take the necessary action. So this is basically the flow. So we'll have the form submitted, and then this form, as I've said, will trigger a webhook. All right, and then the webhook will save data on the Google Sheet, and then after there we'll filter we remove basically all the budget that we are not interested in. Maybe the budget that are below $100, we'll remove them, and then the data that remains, now we'll use a switch. We'll say if it is between $1,000 to $3,000, send a personalized message A. All right, and then if it is between $3,000 to $5,000, send a personalized message B. And then once you have done the switching or executing this if statement will merge this data together. And then once we have merged these steps together, we now send our notification to do the confirmation that we have finished this process. So basically that is how the flow is. So this is how it will look in the n8n, the tool that we are going to use. So don't worry, don't be scared. I'll be taking you through step by step and we'll create everything that you can see here from scratch. So need to worry. And so this is the form, the basic form that we are going to create. That is it for this lesson. For the next lesson, let us meet where we'll add the form and we'll start building the automation. So guys, in this lesson, we are going to look on how now to work on the real workflow and, try to put our hands on deck and try to build something and build something cool. So far, the first thing that we saw from the workflow anatomy is that we need a form that will submit the data, and then we need a webhook on the workflow side that will accept the data and now trigger the workflow. So the first step in our execution here will be to add the form. So I have this prompt here which specify what we are going to add on our landing page that we have already created in the previous lesson. So this prompt specify what we're going to add here, and it says add a form at the bottom of the landing page above the footer, just above the footer, that captures the following information from the visitors potential leads. So we want to capture the full name, we want to capture the email, we want to capture the budget, and this budget will be a drop down with three options: $100 to $1,000, $1,000 to $3,000, and then $3,000 to $5,000. And then we also want to capture project requirements. And then we also want to add a call to action CTA button that is labeled book a free discovery call. And so once you submit this prompt, this is what, for in my case, the forms looks like. Here we have the full name, the email, the budget, and the project requirements. And something else to note before we continue is that this data will be submitted to our automation tool in a camel case format, which means the full name will be full name. So a camel case, which means that the first letter in the first word will always start with a small letter, and then the subsequent words will start with a capital letter. So that is camel case. So full name will be something like this, but in the case of one word, we just start with a small letter. All right, so that is it. So the next thing that we are going to do is that we are going to go into our automation tool and start automating this. And in my case, in this course, I'll be using n8n. So if you've never heard of n8n, is a very known automation tool, very popular. You can be able to build a lot of cool things with it. So go to n8n here. So it's very straightforward. You can start for free, and that is what I recommend for this course. Just start for free, go sign up, sign in. You'll be given a free URL, and then it will land you on the dashboard of the n8n, which look like this. So in my case, I've already signed in and I'm using a free trial for this, and here is the automation that I've already created and tested. But I'm going to take you through the automation from scratch, so don't be worried. I'm going to take you through everything that I've already built. So the first thing that we need in our automation is the webhook. All right, so as we discussed in our previous lesson, is that the webhook needs to be the trigger point, is the one which will be accepting the data from the form that we'll be sending, and then once it sees that it has received the data, and then it will trigger other actions. All right, so to add the webhook is very simple. Just go on your right side, there's the plus button, click here and search for webhook. All right, this one here, if I click, and then you can just cancel this one, it is here. I'll drag it here. So this is the webhook. I'll double click to edit. It will give you a URL the test URL which you are currently using, and then we have the production URL. Once you have tested everything and it's working fine, you can now create a production URL. For now, we'll just use the test URL, and this test URL is actually, or rather the URL is actually editable. So I want this last part to be maybe test lead generation, like this. So as you can see, as I type here, it also changes here on the URL. So this is the URL that we'll be using to post that, and then you also have to specify the HTTP method. In our case, we want to use the post method because we are posting data. Get is used for getting data, delete for deleting data, head also for getting data, patch for updating data, post for posting data, and put for also updating data. So I'm going to choose post data. And that is all that you need to do on the webhook. So our webhook is already good to go. So I'll cancel like this. So the next thing that we need to add here, as you can see, or from what we learned in our last lesson, is that we need some form of data store. And in our case, we're just going to use the Google Sheet because it is readily available. So I'm going to click here. I'm going here. I'm going to search for Google Sheet. It will pop this, and then I'll click this, and then here choose this option. There are many options, but for now just choose this option, append or update a row in Google Sheet. So this is what I'm going to click. For now I'm just going to cancel that, and then we are going to create a new Google Sheet. So just go to Google Sheet like this, sign in, and then create a new Google Sheet. We can call this test lead generation, and then down here you can add the rows that you want to your data from the webhook to be mapped here. So we are going to have a date, we are going to have the first or the full name. We can just do something like this, and then we are going to capture also the budget, as we saw. Sorry, the email first. We are going to capture the budget, and we are going to capture the project requirements like this. So this is the rows that we are going to capture from the webhook that we are using. So I'll come back here, I'll double click here, and then if you are creating this Google Sheet for the first time, you will be asked for to link this to your Google Sheet. It's simple, just click and then click yes, log in with your Gmail account, and then it will be automatically connected. So once it is connected, mine is already connected, you'll see Google Sheet account appear here, and then resources. Just leave everything by default, sheet within the document. Operation is append or update row. Then the document here that we are going to create is of course test lead generation. That is the name of the document that we are going to use. And then the sheet by default, if I go back here, the sheet of this Google Sheet is sheet 1. The default, you can rename this. If you right click, you can rename. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. I go back here and I'm going to choose sheet 1. So once I choose the name of the Google Sheet, it will auto populate the columns that are in the Google Sheet down here. And now this is what we need to map to the webhook. All right, so the date, this is not coming from the form directly, this is something that we'll fill. And then now for this case, just choose expression. This will allow us to put any function that can capture or can evaluate to the values that we'll want. So here I'm going to put curly braces like that, and then I'm going to use this function now, which will always get the current date. All right, and then the full name, we are going to get this data from the form which we'll be sending, but this data comes through the webhook, which sent the data in a JSON format. So what I'm going to do, the expression you write that like this, you get the JSON, and then once you have the JSON inside, you get the body, and then once you have the body, you'll get the full name. As you can see, it's already populating. And then we'll do the same for the email. So we'll get the JSON like this. You have the JSON, and then inside the JSON we have the body, and then we have the email like this, and then we'll do the same for the budget. You have the JSON. All right, this needs to be expression. We have the JSON, we have the body, and then we have the budget. And then lastly, we need the project requirements. So we are going to do this. We'll say we want the JSON, and then inside the JSON we want the body, and then inside the body we want the project requirements. So all these data, as you can see, I've put them in a camel case format. So once we have done that, our Google Sheet step is already good to go, and up to here I think we can test this before we proceed any further. So we can test if we're able to capture this data, and for the testing purposes, just go to API dog. Just Google API dog like this. This will open this tool here. So this API dog also will is for free. You can start for free, and then you can use it to test your data. So I've already set up API dog. There's nothing fancy, just sign in, and then you'll execute a method. So down here, choose the request method to post, and then for the URL post, just go back here. So inside the webhook here, if I click this webhook here, I'm going to copy this URL here, and then if I go to my API dog here, I'm going to update this URL here. So I'm going to click this, I'm going to paste here, I'm going to save this, I'm going to close. So we have the post method, and then the URL is there, and then you're going to select body on these options here, and then you're going to paste this JSON data here, or whatever the JSON data that you want to test with. Just make sure that these parameters here are passed as curly, or rather passed as camel case, otherwise it won't work. So that is it. And then once we have done that, go back here now, and once down here, click execute workflow from webhook 1. So this is webhook 1. The one I had created is just webhook, and this also can be renamed, so don't you can rename this, so no need to worry. So let me just zoom this again. I think I can zoom to fit like this, and then I can execute. So it is listening to this workflow here. So I'm going to my API dog here, and I'm going to click send. So this should send data in the workflow that we have. And if I go back here, you'll see that we have an error here, and that is because I presume we failed to set the column date here. You know, this is a custom column, so we should say the column that should match this now should be date, so that it does not match automatically, or it knows how to map this data. So that is it. Let me try again. So we're going to try this again. All right, we need to start our execution here, then go here again and test this. All right, so it's executing, yeah, and now it is successful. And now if we go to our test lead, you'll see that now we have our data here submitted. So we have successfully created the webhook, and we have also successfully created the Google Sheet, and now we can be able to insert data into the Google Sheet. So I'll end this lesson here, and then the next lesson will pick on how to filter, and also how to add the conditional statements and send conditional email messages. Hello guys, welcome back. And so far we have seen how to create the webhook, we have seen how to get the data, and even to store the data in Google Sheet. So in this lesson I want us to proceed and see how we can be able to filter the data and remove the unwanted or the budget that we do not want, and then we can also see how to use the switch in order to create conditional steps whereby we can send personalized email based on a certain range or budget. All right, so let's dive in and see how to do this. So here I'm going to search for filter. So just search for filter like this, and then this filter, now we are going to use expression, and then in this expression we are going to get JSON dot, and we are going to get just JSON dot budget. We are not going to do JSON dot body dot budget, and the reason is this data here is coming from the columns of the Google Sheet, and the Google Sheet we named it as budget. All right, and it is not again coming through the body of the JSON for the webhook, so it's directly coming from the JSON budget, which is from the Google Sheet. And so the value that we are going to pass here is that we want this thing to proceed only if the value that we pass here is within this range. So if I go back to my Lovable, you'll see that we have three options. The first option is 100 to 1000, then we have 1000 to 3000, then we have 5000, 3000 to 5000. So we want, if the option that is selected here is in our form is 1000 to 3000 or 3000 to 5000, then continue, otherwise do not continue. So we are going to filter this first option here. So I'm just going to copy the way it is, and then if I go back to this value, I'm going to paste this here because I want to compare strings. All right, so I don't need to check if this is integer or something, and then here I'm going to use string and then say is not equal to. So if it is not equal to this option here, we'll continue, otherwise it will fail or it will not continue. So that is it for our filter. The next thing, of course, that we need to add here is the switch, which is our conditional logic that we are going to use to send the email. So we are going to have two states here. So the first one, of course, is the first route, and I'm going to click to use expression, and then here I'm also going to use JSON dot budget like this. So if our budget is if I go back to our Lovable here, if our budget is 1000 to 3000 USD, then do something, so is equal to this, and then I'll create another route here. This I'll use expression, and then again I'll say JSON dot budget, and then I'll go back here to our Lovable. I'll copy this, and then I'll go back here, I'll paste this here. So if our budget is between 1000 to 3000 USD, do something. Otherwise, if it is 3000 to 5000 USD, do something else. So that is it for this conditional statement here. So what we want is that on the first condition, we want to send an email. Also on the second condition, we want to send an email. The only difference will be that this will be very personalized message that will direct the client to do a certain specific action. All right, so for example, if you have 1000 to 3000, we want to tell the client to wait and we'll get back, or we'll get in touch. But if it is 3000 to 5000, we want to tell the client to book a call with us using a certain link, maybe Calendly or whatever, or a calendar that you have, or even Google Calendar. So what we want to do here is to send email. So you're going to say send email. So this option here, and then click send email. It will open this. So you need to authenticate your SMTP account in order to send email. So the way you do this, so currently I've already authenticated, that is why by default it says this, but you can authenticate by clicking edit, or by default it will just ask you to put this data. So this is your Gmail. So I'm using Gmail for this case. So use your Gmail here, and then there is a password here. This is not your Gmail password. So the way you get this password is that you go to accounts, to your account in Gmail, and once you're there, search for something which is app space password. All right, it will bring this. So click this app password. So once you have clicked this app password, it will ask you for your password. So put your password. All right, I'm forgetting my password. So put your password. Once you have put your password, you are supposed to create an app. This app is something that Gmail uses, or the password that is linked to this app there is something that Gmail uses to authenticate outside application. And in this case, we are using n8n, which is an outside application. So come here and say maybe n8n like this, and then click create. All right. So once you click create, it will bring this password here. So this is the password that you are supposed to copy and go back to your SMTP account in n8n. And once you are there, paste this password here. This is what you're supposed to paste here. So once you have pasted here, go and fill the host. The host is simply smtp.gmail.com, and then the port use 465, and then TLS. This should be on, and that is it. So once you have filled this data, then you will be able to check up here. There will be a button here to tell you to connect, and once you click it, it will connect successfully. That is it, and then you'll be able to authenticate your email to be able to send email through n8n. So we need to provide the from email. In our case, I'll just provide my email. But now to the to email, we need to provide an the email for the client, because we want this email to go to the client. So we are going to use the expression like this, and then we are going to use JSON dot. I'm going to use the field from the Google Sheet, which is capital E for email, and then the subject, I'm going to say thank you for getting in touch. So that is it. And then for email format, I'm going to say text. And then inside here, what I'm going to say, I'm just going to say hi. And then I'll use an expression here. I'll say JSON. Let's say JSON. And then I'll use the full name. And then once I've done that, I'll say hi, Kevin Amai. We will, what am I doing? We will get back to you as soon as possible. So this is dummy text. You can customize this as much as you want and personalize it as much as you want. So once I've done that, then our first email and conditional statement is good to go. So I'm going to do this still for the second conditional statement here. So I'm going to say send here, send email. I'm going to say like this. So since we have already seen this, I'm going to just copy things from here. So I'm going to copy this. I'm too lazy to type this thing, so don't worry. So here I'm going to paste this, and then I'll go back here, I'll close this and go back here. I'm too lazy to type this, so I'm going to just paste here, and then I'll come here, I'll copy even the body like this. We'll go back here, I'll change this to text, I'll paste here, and then here I'll say we'll get, instead here we'll just say please schedule a one-on-one call with us at, then I just put a random number here like this, and then we are good to go. So let's test and see if this will work. I'm not sure, but let's test and see. And then now we go and we'll put 100 to 1000. So if I execute this, you can see it is started. And if we go here, you can see the first node was executed, the second node was executed, but the third node was executed, and then it paused here, or it ended here, since this value is $100 to $1000, so it will not pass here. And so if I use if I test with 100 to $1000, it will not pass the filter. But if I use, let's say, $1000 to $3000, I'm expecting the first email or the first conditional node to be executed in this case. So this is $1000 to $3000. So I'll execute our node here, and then if I come to a test here, I'll send this. So it said our node has been sent. As you can see now, it is testing our node here, and then yeah, the email has been sent, and that is actually my email. If I go back, as you can see now, this is the email. Say thank you for getting in touch. Let me just open this. Thank you for getting in touch, we'll get back to you. And if I go back here and use 3000 to 5000 and execute this, so let me just limit this and go back here. So I'll start the webhook, and then I'll open the API dog. I'll execute this, and then I'll minimize this. You can also see that this one has executed, and if I go to my email, click this, I open this, you can see that now this email has changed. This is please schedule a one-on-one call with us at this number. So our conditional loop is working as expected so far. So our conditional loop is sending the emails that we want. You can customize anytime that you want, as you want it. So the next thing that we need to do now is to ensure that we map or we merge these nodes together. You do not want to have them hanging like this. So we are going to use a merge node here. So this is the merge node. I just add it like that, and then pick this and join it here. So once you have used a merge node, now we want this workflow to end by sending us an email. So I'll just come here, I'll say send email like this. So here I'll use my email. Also the to email, I'll use my email, and then I'll say here subject need be serious and call the client. And then inside here, I'll just say I'll change this first to text and say, hey, you have a lead. And then that is it. So once I've done that, now let's test this again. So I'll execute this, I'll go back here, I'll send this, I'll close this. As you can see now, it has executed end to end. And if I go to my Gmail here, I should have an email. As you can see, we have an email here. Hey, you have a lead, be serious and call the client. So that is it, guys. We were able to create this whole workflow end to end, and you have seen even how to use the filters, the switch, how to integrate the email, the merge, and also how to use even the Google Sheet. So the next thing that is remaining is to link this workflow to our Lovable website, to our Lovable landing page, and make it working flawless. So that is what we are going to do in our next lesson. So guys, we have managed to create the workflow. We have managed to create the landing page or the simple website at Lovable, and now we want to bring all these things together and connect the prompt and connect the workflow together with the landing page, so that we can be able to do a real world case user use case. All right, so let's dive in and do it. So I've already created the prompt. So the prompt that will be able to, let me just copy from this, and so this prompt will be able to add or to link together the form and the workflow that we have created. So I'll go to Lovable here. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste and then I'm going to explain how this works. So this is the prompt. So the prompt simply says clicking on the book a free discovery call button in the form, it should send a post request to the webhook URL, and this is our webhook URL. In your case, it will be your webhook URL. And then later down here, I'm saying the request should contain the form details. All right, the request should contain the form details. And then I've specified it and said this is the exact sample data. Remember when you are testing using the API doc, this is where this comes very handy to avoid, knowing where the data submission is broken or if there is an issue. So we provide the JSON that we have tested, and then we now execute this. So if you set this now, Lovable will, of course, behind the scene connect everything and add the post request to this webhook. So let me just refresh, and then we see how this comes together. So now this is the form now. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to submit, let's say submit my name, Kevin Amai. I'm going to submit my email, Kevin Msungu 455. I'm going to select a budget of 1,000 to 3,000, and I'm going to say test automation as the project requirement. And then I'll go back to n8n, and then I'll execute the workflow so that it can listen to the request that is coming. And then I'll submit this form. I'll go back here. As you can see, the form, the automation is running, and it send an email, it merge and also send me an email. And if I go to my email, my inbox, you can see I've received an email here, and this is thank you, we'll get back to you as soon as possible. If I go to the other email, I've also received an email here, 11:20, which says be serious and call the client. So it is working perfectly. So we have managed now to add the form, and we have managed to connect our n8n to Lovable. So the next thing that we are going to do is we are going to see how now to take this and publish it and make it live, so that if we have clients, they can start using and can start making money with it. So even if you go to the Google Docs, you can also see that our details have been submitted here. I done one test, that is why we have 2 entries here. And that is it, guys. So let us meet in the next lesson where we'll deploy our app and then have it live. So far, guys, we have been able to create the workflow, we've been able to create the landing page, and we've been able to link these two together, and everything is working seamless. And we've been able also to test end to end, and everything, as you have seen, is working as expected. So in this lesson, you want to specifically focus on how to deploy what you have done. So we're gonna try and deploy this so that our clients can be able to serve this from a public domain. So it's very simple. So the first thing that you need to do, you're gonna come here to your webhook. Once you open your webhook, double click it, there's this production URL. This is what we want to actually take live. There is the test URL which you've been using, and then there's the production URL. So you're gonna copy this, and you can actually rename the last part of this production URL so it can be production friendly. So don't add things like test here, it can be confusing when you take live. So just name it to be production friendly. So once you've done that, you're gonna come to Lovable, and on Lovable here we're going to run a small prompt that is going to tell Lovable to update the webhook URL from the test URL to this production ready URL. And this is what the prompt looks like. Update the webhook URL to this as we want to take the application live. As simple as that, nothing complicated. And once you've done that, then you're gonna come and click this drop down here. So if you click this drop down, you're gonna come and click settings here. So under settings, what you're going to do, you're going to click Git, and then you're going to click GitHub. So once you click GitHub, just make sure you go into GitHub and log in into your account, your GitHub account. So once you have logged into your GitHub account, you'll come here and click add connection here. So once you have added the connection, it will connect your GitHub, and then you click next until you are done. So for me, I already added this account, so the only thing that I need to do here is just to click connect. So what this will do is that not only will it connect to my GitHub account, but it will also push the project to GitHub, all right, and give you the public URL, HTTP URL. So this is the URL that you'll get. So this is the name of the project here, just on the last part of this URL, this part here. So I'll copy this, and then if I go to my GitHub repo and I'll just do a refresh here. So here, if I do a search of this repo, you can see it pops up here. So let me just clear everything, and then all right, go to my repositories. I'm going to clear this. I'm going to paste this here, and I'm going to hit enter. So as you can see, it pops the repo. So it has created this repo automatically on GitHub. So the next thing that you'll need to do is now go to vercel.com. Vercel.com is what we are going to use, VERCEL, vercel.com, and then sign up for a free account. All right, you can sign up for a free account. You don't need to pay anything. So once you log into Vercel, the first page that you'll see will look something like this. And then here, probably if you have never deployed anything, it will just tell you to connect to GitHub, and that is what you will do. And then once you connect to GitHub, it will import all your repositories here by default. So this is what you'll have. So you'll see your repository that has been pushed from Lovable here, the most recent one. And then the only thing that you need now to do here is click import, and then it will take you here, and then just click deploy. You don't need to do anything else, just click import and then click deploy, and then this will do everything that you need to do in terms of deployment. So it has deployed, so I'll skip the account, and then it will tell me congratulations. And then if I continue to dashboard here, it will open the project deployment, and then here is the domain. If I click it, it will now open the live site. And that is it, guys. You have taken your project live, and congratulations. So the only thing that now we need maybe to test is to test our form here. So I'm going to test my form here. To autofill this, I'm going to put a valid email here like this, and then the budget, I'm going to choose 3,000 to 5,000. I'm going to test deployment like this, and once I've done that, I'll just book a call. So it has sent everything, and then if I go to my email, if I go to my inbox, you'll see that now I've received the email. And if I go to the other email, I should also have received also on the other email, I've received the email. So everything is working.